All right, we're going to mute everybody here in a minute if we could. Please mute yourselves as you come in. I'm muting a bunch of people here before I get started. I want to welcome you all to our second round club officer training for District 9. You're probably wondering why it's so early. Do you remember all when we complained in February and January why we have to travel to club officer training across mountain passes and deep snow and my horse won't get through? TI has finally listened to us and allowed, of course, we're all on Zoom now because of the pandemic, but we know now the horse is out of the barn and it isn't going to get back in. So we are allowed to start training earlier in the year to help with some of these issues. Having said that, I welcome you all to our second round training. We have a full agenda for you today. We're going to move along at a fairly fast clip because we know people, even though they enjoy club officer training, they also enjoy their respite too. With that, I welcome Victoria Chatterton as our capable Toastmaster today. Help me welcome Victoria.
Thank you, everyone. I am so excited about this training. We're getting an early start, and with the numbers that we have today, we may be getting done with all of our year-long club officers before the end of the year, and then those who reach the 6-month mark will get those trained as soon as we have it going on in December. Okay, and you can see my screen, correct? I always like to start out with a couple cartoons when we do trainings, just so that we're having a great one. This says, it's my support group for Zoom fatigue syndrome. How many of us are going through Zoom fatigue syndrome? I am. At our club meeting for our advanced club last Saturday, I was already having us in December. So I don't know, this Zoom thing. And since we have Thanksgiving coming up, we have them telling, I'm with Delicious, with the arrow pointing to the other turkey. And then the turkey gives to Andy, the appliance repairman. You get a call from this number about a busted oven, you're busy, understand? All right. Few housekeeping before we get into that. Let me make it so I can see everybody again. Welcome, welcome. All right. There we go. I love my Zoom. Okay. Just a couple of things. We will be having some questions and answers during our sessions in the live. And because we have so many participants on, it's best if you raise your hand. And to do that, how you raise your hand is you scroll down, or you go to the bottom where it says participants. And on participants, you can click that and you'll see raise hand. All right, I see some of you are doing that. Wonderful. Because that means that then we'll be able to call on you on order. All right, if for some reason you can't seem to do that, I understand sometimes we're on a device that makes us unable for us to do that. And so I understand. And if we could do that, that would be great. All right. And let's see, another bit of housekeeping. Change your name. We kind of went through that, but if you haven't changed your name now and want to get credit for being in a club officer breakout room, the way we're assigning it is by what you put down for your initials of your training. So to do that, in case you don't know, you get on your picture and you hover over the 3 dots. And then you click on rename, and you can rename yourself. All right, and then I have an assistant today because I have learned that Zoom and managing everything and trying to watch chat and time can be kind of difficult. And so Rob Tidd has agreed to help me out on the back end of Zoom. And so welcome, Rob. Thank you so much for your assistance.
I'm humbled to have been chosen for this role. Thank you.
You are most certainly welcome. All right. Okay, without further ado, we are going to be jumping in. If we've had any last minute people jumping on, Deborah, if you could just put the agenda in the chat one more time so that anybody who just came in will be able to get that, that would be good. I'm not sure why my computer is not allowing me to do it, but I appreciate that. And then after she has dropped that, please everybody give a warm welcome for information about district leadership to our wonderful district director, Deborah Crone. Woo!
Thank you, Victoria. And if you'd allow me to share my screen, I am allowed, but I think you need to stop sharing yours
I
first.
do, thank you. I thought I stopped sharing. Okay,
Thank you. I did drop both the agenda and the slide deck for this presentation. Let's see. Joy, could you mute yourself there, please?
Sorry.
This short session today is going to be on district leadership. And the first thing I want to do is introduce my fabulous team that is helping me here today. Our district leadership chair, Ed Keeney, distinguished Toastmaster 14 times. Natalie Palmer, distinguished Toastmaster, past regional advisor, past district governor for District 9. Nancy Chateau, DTM 2 times, if not 3. Is it 3 now, Nancy? All right. Past district governor. Elizabeth Russell is our past division director and our current administrative manager. And Pam Beasley, past area director. With that, I will start sharing my screen and ask Ed to take over.
Well, good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing today? Good, I hope. All right, we're going to be focusing a little bit this morning on the area and division directors. We'll talk some about all of the positions, but we really need to do that. And as you can see here, we have our mission statement from International. And I think we should change it from we empower individuals, we empower all individuals to become more effective communicators and leaders. As we look at these things, how does that tie into what we have? Well, here we are with our district mission, building new clubs to support all clubs in achieving excellence. So with that, we have our core values. And I've had some people, myself included, look at these and say, well, they should change it to make it into an acronym. Just change the respect and integrity so that you have RISE. And that would mean to me that you rise in your leadership opportunities and just your Toastmaster experiences. So you have integrity, respect, service, and excellence. And very quickly, do we have anybody that wants to go back once, please? Do we have anybody that wants to talk about any one of those? Just very quickly. I can't believe I have, what, 80 some Toastmasters and nobody wants to talk.
I have 91. Somebody must have.
All right. All right. Well, we'll just go ahead and go forward then. So the roles of the district leadership, what are they? Well, this graphic you have here, it talks about and shows the different positions. In your district leadership handbook, or your area division directors and the clubs, all of those have this graphic in there. And as you can see, it's built from the district director outward. We take some of those things and we say, hey, what does each one of those do? Well, we're going to talk about the first two specifically and then just briefly go over the other ones. So let's move on to the area director position. Now, Vicki, let me ask you, is everyone on video or do we have some folks just on the phone?
That is a great question. Let me see. We have looks like we have a couple participants who are on the phone.
All right. Well, for their benefit then, unfortunately, I'm going to go ahead and read some of these. Those who see it, bear with me. We just want to go through these. The area director serves as a liaison between the district and the clubs in the area, serves and support 4 to 5 clubs. And this is the key kicker: the visit 2 clubs or visit clubs at least 2 times per year. And you got to make sure you do that, folks, to give them credit and give the district credit. Host the area council meetings and host the area speech contest. Now that last one, host the area speech contest, people look at that and go, well, what does that mean? That means that you practice your delegation responsibilities. And those things are very, very important. Now, with all the virtual training and all the virtual activities we've got going on, there's a lot of different things that have to happen. So rather than taking up the time right now, we can talk about that later in different types of activities. But make sure also, you see down here at the bottom, you've got to talk about the council meetings, or I'm sorry, the visits. The council meetings are required, 2 of those per year. So make sure that you're ready to go with that. If you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand each time, but I can't see those. Rob, I'm sure that you'll pull me in if you got that. So any other questions on the area director right at the moment? I know it's kind of fast, but we'll talk a bit more. All right, division directors. Again, lead and support the divisions through supervision and supporting area directors. The key selling point to this in years past has been, hey, we want you to be a division director. And the key to that is you don't have to go visit the clubs. Well, I'm sorry, folks, but there's no requirement to do that. But if you're going to be a good division director and jump out and try to be that division director of the year, this is a key activity that you need to do. Not just talk about it, not just send out emails about it or make phone calls, but go visit the clubs. Let them know who you are. I've been in some areas and some districts where you go 9 months into the year and you go make a visit and ask somebody, who's your area division director? They pretty much can give you the area director. They don't have a clue who the division director is. So let's make sure that we have to do that. Host and facilitate the division council meetings. Those 2 of those are required. It's suggested that you do it monthly. And assist the area directors with club visits if the area director is unable to attend. Even if they are able to attend, make carpool out of it and both of you head out. The club growth, assist the club growth director in identifying and following up on potential new clubs. Most of the time, most of us belong to our club and they say, hey, that's good enough for me. I don't need to worry about it. I've had opportunities to visit clubs all over the world, and it's been a really neat opportunity. And actually, I had to spend 10 months in Texas with my mom when she was ill, and I visited, and I was a regular attendee of 2 Texas clubs down there, which helped me to sign off one of my DTMs. That's really a neat thing. And they come and visit with you, and they have fun with you, and you have fun with them. And that relationship for some of them have continued on. Excuse me a minute. Apologize. And assist the club growth director in identifying club coaches. Next slide, please. All of your roles, this is every role. Complete the respective success plans. That's area, division, or district success plans. Attend and participate in the DECs, the District Executive Council meetings. A lot of people say, well, I don't know if I belong or not. Well, whether you do or not, it's always nice to attend unless you're specifically told that it's only for the DEC council members. So the opportunity comes up, do those. And lastly, help identify and mentor successors. That should happen during your second, well, it should happen throughout the year, but it should happen during at least a quarter of your position, area, division director, any of the other positions there. So that you have something. All right, I'm getting an echo back here. There we go. So that you have something, a basis to work with, so that when somebody else comes up to follow you, it's not one of these, I don't really know what's going on. Next one. Your requirements for your role. The area director, you have to serve as a district council member. Division director, you have to serve 6 months as a district council member. The district council member is the club president and or the VPE. Those are the only two club officer positions that will give you credit for attending some activity that requires club approval or club attendance. Go with that. Now, go ahead, slide up. You can see this, the District Leadership Handbook. This is your mini Bible, if you will. One of the key things in this is the 2 pages that you have with the calendars. Now, taking a look at those, and we don't have a slide on that, but taking a look at those when you get in there, it tells you by month, by position, what is expected of you and what are the mandatory things that you need to do. So you go to Toastmaster.org, you go to sign in, you go to Leadership Central, and then District Leader Tools, and you will have access to that as a district leader, whatever your position may be. So a lot of times people go in there and say, well, I can't get into those. Well, some of those things are restricted only to certain positions, but you should be able to try and get in there. And if nothing else, the District Leadership Handbook and the Club Handbook are both downloadables. There's a lot of pages to it, but I encourage you, if you're going to do it, at least the calendar should be in color, because it has triangles on there that are color associated with the positions, and that's where you need to go with that. All right, next slide, please.
All right. Well, now it's our opportunity to welcome Natalie back to District 9, and she's going to share why district leadership. Help me welcome Natalie.
Great, thanks so much. Hi, everybody. A couple things. Ed, I'm going to go ahead and have you stop sharing the screen, and I'll just go ahead and talk to the group for a couple minutes. Also, if you have questions, please feel free to put those into the chat. Deb, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to just monitor that in case we've got some questions. We'll go ahead and have Deb be our filter for those. So send questions to everyone. Deb will be our eyes on the prize. Well, first of all, hello to everyone whose faces I have not seen in far too long. And hello to everyone who I have never had the chance to meet before. My name is Natalie Palmer, and I was a member of District 9 for several years. In fact, that's where my Toastmasters journey started. I was a stay-at-home mom in Wenatchee, Washington, and actually my dad had been a Toastmaster for many years. And in the Wenatchee World paper, every Monday, the Cascade Speakeasy would have a little blibbit in the upcoming meetings about, hey, there's a Toastmaster meeting this Monday. And I would read it and I would make a comment every few weeks to my husband, oh, look, there's a Toastmasters meeting. And he would say, you should go. But I was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad had belonged to a corporate Toastmasters club. So my picture of Toastmasters was people in suits who had paychecks, and I didn't think I would belong. But finally, one day, there was an article about the club on the front page of the lifestyle section, and it said, we are having an open house next week on Monday. And I met my husband at the door when he came home from work. And I said, Joe, the Toastmasters Club has an open house next Monday. And he said, you should go. I said, the meeting starts in 20 minutes. If I leave now, I can get there. He said, you don't want to wait for the open house? And I said, I'm feeling brave now. And I don't know if I'll feel brave next week. And he handed me the car keys, and there we went. It was all uphill from there, or downhill if you ask my family. I became a member of Cascade Speakeasy, and really one of the things that was important to me was regaining my voice, finding an ability to speak as a stay-at-home mom who had mostly been watching Dora the Explorer and volunteering in preschool rooms. My confidence continued to gain, and it was my Toastmasters Club that encouraged and supported me when I had my first job interview to work for Central Washington Hospital. They supported me as I figured out how to navigate the professional world again. And my club was the one that supported me when, unfortunately, I was one of 80 staff laid off about a decade ago from CWH. And it was my club that supported me and that I cried the hardest when I ended up moving to Spokane. But it was in Spokane that my Toastmasters journey took off in ways I never expected. I became a member of the trio. Nancy was my district governor, and I started to learn about leadership in ways that I had never expected I'd be able to. The first thing that was a benefit for me becoming a part of district leadership was relationships. I started to get to know people outside of my regular circle of friends, my regular circle of work, people I never expected to get the opportunity to meet. The next thing that I really gained from my district leadership journey was confidence. The ability to walk into a room, take a breath, and just make other people feel welcome. You know, for me, that's one of the most important things about being leadership in Toastmasters, is creating a space where other people feel that they are safe and that they are welcome, and that they too, whether they have a job or they're a stay-at-home parent, whether they have a lot of confidence and experience speaking, or whether they can barely get up in front of a room. Being a part of district leadership has helped me support an environment where people from all walks of life can find their voice and discover the person they want to be when it comes to communication. And I have really had an opportunity to live out those Toastmasters ideals. So integrity is the first one. And despite the fact that you can turn it into a world, I can tell you, Dan Rex, who's 10 miles away from me at the world headquarters here in Denver, he will tell you we always lead with integrity. We always lead with making decisions based on what is correct, what is good, and what is going to best serve our population. Respect, I got the opportunity to come into contact and to meet people that in other circumstances I may never have a chance to work with, and to learn how to navigate those relationships in professional and respectful ways. Now, one of you asked about service. Service was a huge thing for me as being a part of Toastmasters. I believe so strongly in what Toastmasters has given to me and what I have seen it give to other people, that when I had the opportunity of time, energy, and skills, or the desire to build my skills, I took the time to serve the larger organization, to help other people have the opportunities that meant so much to me. So service is a huge part of leadership when you choose to take that step on. And excellence. My mom says that you will always be a freshman in life, and I have found that to be true in Toastmasters. There has always been something new for me to learn, and someone new to help me learn, whether it was here in District 9 where we are today, or reaching out to people in other districts or in international leadership. It has helped me learn and grow skills in ways I never expected to be using in my life today. I went on beyond district leadership. I became a region advisor. A region advisor is an interviewed position appointed by the president of Toastmasters and voted on and approved by the board of directors. It's a one-year term, and you serve as a trainer and operational support to the district trios in your region of the world. That pushed and grew me in ways I never expected. It gave me a chance to help continue to put my values and my principles into action, and to help other people build skills that would help them be successful. So it also has really come back to roost in my personal life. I work for UC Health, which is an extremely large research-based hospital here in Colorado. We have 1/3 of the COVID patients in the state of Colorado are in our facilities right now. We have 30% more patients now than we did last week. It's been an incredibly stressful time. And do you know what one of the most important skills I get from Toastmasters that I am using on a daily basis on Zoom meetings? It's the ability to say something clearly, concisely, and make sure that I'm not going over my time limit. Can I tell you how beloved I am by my coworkers, and the fact that I never go over time and I always end my meetings on time? Let me tell you guys, in this new and interesting world, that is a skill that is much more beloved than you may have given anyone credit for. All right. Who am I looking at? Deb. Deb, do we have any questions? And then we'll go ahead and hear from our illustrious panel.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Natalie, very much. I don't see any questions. A comment from Kelly Hansen, safe and welcoming is very important. Elaine Kelly asked a question, but I'm going to throw that back to Ed Keeney when he's back up here about our areas required to have a council. With that, I will start my screen share again here really quick and move on, and thank you very much, Natalie.
Absolutely.
Right. Continuing on with what's in it for me, I've invited 3 past leaders to share their experience in different roles in our district leadership. We'll start with Nancy Chateau, then move on to Pam Beasley. Nancy, as I mentioned before, is a past district governor. Pam Beasley is a past area director of the year. Elizabeth Russell is a past division director of the year. With that, I will call on Nancy to share her testimonials. Nancy.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Good. So as far as my experience with district leadership, it started back when I became an area governor for the first time. I think back to just becoming a district officer, club officer. The first role I ever had was sergeant at arms in my club. I, of course, did not have a clue what it was that I had signed up to do. And just like every officer role that I have ever held in Toastmasters, it seems like the beginning of the year you start doing something that you really don't know what it is you've signed up to do, and by the end of the year is when you finally figured it out. And at that point know what it is that you should have been doing, but maybe hadn't been. And I always think back to some advice that Ken Averill gave when I was starting out, and he always said, to find one thing to make your officer role better and focus on that. If you try to focus on too much, you'll just feel overwhelmed. And so I've always kind of taken that message to heart with every role that I've held, from the sergeant at arms, then I was a club president, and then it wasn't long after that that I entered into the trio. And I've always been a person who wanted to kind of fill in the gaps. So at the point when our district was in need of a club trio, and we had the first 2 positions, but the third was not yet filled, that's where I raised my hand and said, go ahead and set me in there. And so I worked with Dave Widener and Adrian De Silva at the trio level, and stepped into that very first of the roles, which was a marketing role. And of course, I'm an IT person, so I have no background or experience in marketing whatsoever, and learned so much from that experience. So the opportunity to be able to find out ways to better try to market our clubs to our communities, to help grow our individual clubs, to build new ones, to take international people that are visitors to our district conferences around to visit with businesses to promote new clubs. That was all a total brand new world to me when I was experiencing that. Then immediately after that, I kind of finally figured that one out by the end of the year, and then moved on to the next role, which was more an education type role, which was the number 2 position in the district trio. And that role I found was much more in my wheelhouse because I'm more of an organizer and a planner. So I could definitely help with getting the club trainings, getting the contests, getting the district conferences ready, things like that, that I felt really comfortable with that role. It was probably the easiest role for me of all. But then the following year, I became what was at that point a district governor. It was before we were now district directors. And that, again, became a very difficult role before me because it had to do a lot with delegation, that you needed to recognize that you could not do everything yourself, that you needed to depend upon your team, and that you needed to help enable others. And it was funny because I had a conversation with Pat Johnson, who was a past international director. We were driving from a club visit back to a hotel room one night, and she asked the question about, well, would you ever do it again if you had a chance? And I said, well, absolutely, because now I know exactly what's right. And he goes, oh, Nancy, that's the wrong answer. And I go, well, why would that be? And she said, because, Nancy, you would be preventing someone else from having that learning experience. And what you need to do now that you have been in that position before and you know what worked, what didn't, and how you can advise, it's better for you to be an advisory role and have someone else have the learning experience of doing that role for the very first time, because then they are going to grow and they are going to benefit from it. I thoroughly love being a district director for it was shocking when I saw the dates on there as to when I last did this, to think it was nearly 10 years ago that I was our district director. But it was funny because the things that I remember most from my year of being a district director were, one, when I had started out on the trio, Adrian and I had kind of created a pact between the two of us that we both wanted to see if during our 3-year term on the trio, we could visit every single club in our district. And I can't say that I succeeded in that. I was 5 clubs short, but I had gotten to over 50 of our clubs within our district in that 3-year time period, and thoroughly loved meeting and developing relationships with the Toastmasters around our district. The second thing I remember the most is going to the international conventions and being able to carry that flag in the opening ceremonies when it felt like I was at the Olympics, and being able to represent a country in that. And then at one of our luncheons that we had in the district meetings, we had representation from every single continent around our table, which was amazing to me to think that we had people from all over the world that could speak English, could converse and have a meeting, just a lunch, and have a conversation. When we had people from Asia, from South America, from Europe, I was the representative from the United States, Australia. We had every continent represented at that table, and that is something that I will never forget. But if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to field those. And Natalie, it's wonderful to see you again too.
Thank you so much, Nancy, for your words. It was very moving and inspirational. Let's see, next up, I'm going to invite, I don't see any questions for you at the moment here, but I will invite now Pam Beasley, past Area Director of the Year, to speak on her thoughts about serving in district leadership. Pam.
Okay, thank you, Deborah. If you guys hear banging of clocks, it's because I have 33 clocks in here, and some of them aren't quite on time with the others. So I'm sort of tasked with encouraging people to look at taking that next step. You've been a club officer. What is the obvious, natural, next logical step is to grab the fabulous opportunity and sign up to become an area director. If I accidentally say area governor, that's what it used to be. Now, the first time I threw my very uncontested hat into the ring for that role, it was at the urging of a club member. It might have even been Nancy or maybe Rosalie, who said, "You'll love it. It's so much fun and it's so easy." And we believe this stuff, right? Well, 2.5 out of 3 was not really bad. I had a wonderful time. Area director, I think, is the best job of any of the jobs above just the club level. I loved it so much that I did it again. And then I volunteered to help a prison club member do it. And then I helped a non-sighted Vision Speaks member do it. And I think I even did a 5th term. It is just a great, great job. Let me encourage you really to go for it. And there's a lot of reasons for that. First, of course, is all the people. You get a chance to meet so many more people than just in your Toastmaster club. Interesting people that are motivated like you are to serve in Toastmasters, to help clubs grow. I mean, it's the people that make Toastmasters, right? And you get to go and visit other clubs. You're required to go and visit other clubs and find new ideas and new ways of doing things that you can take back to your own club, because we all get a little stale from time to time. Your enthusiasm, your involvement with the bigger world of Toastmasters will come right back into your club and show them that there is a bigger world than just our 1-hour meeting a week. I mean, if you think about it, if you pay your dues, and show up for 1 hour a week, that's kind of like joining the gym, paying your dues and showing up on Saturday morning and walking on the treadmill for an hour. No, you really should be getting more out of your Toastmaster membership fees, if nothing else. And as an area director, you get a chance to develop, to work on your own skills. I mean, participating in club officer training or setting up area or division activities, it helps you to work on your leadership, your organization, your teamwork, your delegation, all of those skills. The only thing that's any work at all, and it's not that much work, is maybe having to do a little paperwork, your formal club visit reports, but that is really very, very easy. You just print those things off blank, you visit your clubs more than twice a year if you possibly can, you develop those relationships, and then you just take a little bit of time online to catch people doing something right, to encourage people in all the things that they were doing well in their clubs. I mean, this is wonderful. It's very much like any other kind of leadership role. People will rise to the things that you expect of them. Oh, and one more finally, you have a chance to seek out and develop talent around you. So you visit your clubs and you see that member that you know would make a good club president. You can encourage that. It's wonderful to have that opportunity to help other people to move ahead and identify perhaps and encourage and develop your own replacement. If you're working in the mentorship piece of Pathways, wonderful chance. You see somebody else step in and take over after you, if you can bear to give the job up, because I will absolutely guarantee this is the most fun job in Toastmasters. And at the end of a year, you may very well not want to give it up. Deborah.
Thank you, Pam, very much. Very inspirational and heartwarming. And I loved your enthusiasm about it. And thank you for showing up here today to help us with this. And now I welcome up Elizabeth Russell, past Division Director of the Year. Elizabeth.
Hi, thank you, Deborah. Can everyone hear me?
Yep. Yep.
Perfect. Well, I have to say, Pam Beasley, you really spoke to me about that gym membership. I have one and I've not been consistently going, so I should start doing that again. But as far as Toastmasters, though, I'll go back to the very beginning. I joined Toastmasters because I wanted to overcome my fear of public speaking, and little did I know that district leadership was a thing. I mean, that was a whole different world. And it was shortly after I joined, I think it was in just a month or two, that I was asked by my club to serve as the vice president membership. And I wasn't one to say no to a challenge. And I thought, oh, I can help out people. Sure, I'll say yes. So I said yes to that. And then after that term, I was asked to consider the vice president education role. And again, I thought, well, why not? So I said yes. And then that path continued from the president to area director, and then finally division director. And so I've had just a little bit of experience in these different roles. And right now I just want to share from the perspective of the division director, especially since I was able to serve in these other roles leading up to it. And what I learned from it is, I think the most rewarding thing for me was having a team that I felt I could actually provide guidance and expertise to, because like Nancy, like you're saying, I say yes to these roles, and by the end of the term, then I figure out what I'm doing. So I'm the one that's constantly learning what to do and how to lead other people and build a skill set where I'm leading, but I'm serving at the same time. And what does that look like? Like, what does it mean to serve other people? And what does it really mean to be a leader? And how can I empower other people to do their jobs successfully? And I think that by the time I was able to serve as division director and have a team where I would meet with them monthly, the area directors, I realized that I finally was at a place where I had built up this firsthand experience, and I could, in return, give that to them. It was almost like my way of giving back what people had given me through the years in leadership and Toastmasters. And I just knew at that point, I had a really solid team that I was working with. I, by this time, had gotten to know these individuals just because I'd been in Toastmasters for a while. So it wasn't like I was stepping into this team and didn't know who these people were. I knew that they were hard workers. I knew that I could trust them to get their jobs done and to do them well. And let me tell you, my area directors took their roles so seriously, and you could see that every time we'd meet monthly, and every time that they would report what they were doing, I just knew that I could trust them, what they were doing. And that was the most rewarding part of all. It's hard when you're in leadership to realize that delegation is really important. And so I think for me, this was a good evaluation of that, where I saw the team and I knew that they had their respective roles, and I didn't have to oversee that in minute detail, that I could let it go and let them do what they needed to do and still provide that general guidance overall. And so it was that fine balance between me knowing that I could trust them to do their role and just letting them do that. And then that freed me up to do my role as a division director. Something that was a little difficult for me, and this is going to sound so funny now that we're meeting all the time virtually, so I thought, why am I even saying this? But at the time, this was something that I wished was a little bit different, was when we would meet, it was always over phone calls, and we weren't into Zoom like this where we could see faces. Like, this is awesome that I can see all of your faces. I feel like I'm actually connecting with you, because at the time we would just have these phone calls and I could hear voices. And I mean, all of you know how wide our district is. I've always been jealous of other districts that geographically was a lot closer together. And I thought I never get to see people in person, or really get to. And so that was one thing that I kind of missed, was I didn't really get to connect with my team in person a lot. And at the time, not having this face-to-face connection over Zoom didn't help. And so I have to say, I don't know if that, I don't know. I will always wish for in-person interaction, but this is what we have, and we are making the most of it. So don't get me wrong. But at the time, that's what I miss the most about that. The last thing that I want to say, and just being real with all of you, since I felt like I was always stepping into these roles and learning as I went. Even as a division director, that was my first time being a division director. And so I didn't have all the answers. And a lot of the times it's like I was taking that district leadership handbook and opening it up and going, okay, check. Like, what are my tasks as a division director? So sometimes I would get caught up in, here are all the things that I have to do. Here's all the information that I have to provide to my area directors, and I have to get this done. And I think the mindset should have been, how can I go above and beyond to serve others and to give them what they need to do their job even better? Like, how could I add even more value? So instead of always being a step behind and doing what I had to do, how could I get one step ahead and proactively give them additional resources or inspiration, or just how could I do a better job of leading? And so I think that if I were to do that job again, well, I don't know how it would look with me doing it again, but if I were to, I guess I should say, to start over, because you don't know what you don't know. But if I had a second chance to be division director, that's what I would know now. I would want to lead with being a little bit more proactive in that aspect, and just doing my best to add value to that team, because I can tell you they really added value to me, and I really appreciated all of the hard work that they did. And that really was just the most rewarding thing for me.
Thank you, Elizabeth, so much. Your words really touched my heart, and I loved your phraseology there. Now, just how to get one step ahead instead of one step behind. I appreciate that. And if we can help any of you do that, that's what we're here for. And now I'll bring Ed back to finalize or get on to the next piece of our Toastmaster District Leadership presentation. Ed Keeney.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, again now, the next steps. You've heard all of these positive and refreshing and encouraging testimonials. Why not take the next step? Well, I bet I could get probably 100 reasons why people don't want to step up. One of the biggest ones has always been, well, I enjoy doing contests, and if I'm a contestant, then I'm ineligible. So I would say, let's try to, even though contests are great, let's try to do some other things and get into that leadership role, and you'll find that you really enjoy it. So serving, and this is a slide for those of you on the phone, there's or if you're interested in serving as a district leader, what do you have to do? Well, there's 3 forms that have to be completed. And those are all on the district website now. So you can go take a look at those. But they are the candidate nomination form. You can nominate yourself or you can nominate anyone else. I'd encourage you, if you're going to nominate somebody else, make sure you talk to them first, because it will save a whole lot of time down the road. Because by the time that we in the leadership committee get to them and start the interview process and talk to them, they say, well, I don't really want to do that. So make sure that they're willing to do that before you nominate them, if at all possible. The second one is a candidate application. They have to fill out the form and complete everything that's required and go from there. And the third is the officer agreement and release form. And that is a formality, if you will, but it's still something that has to be completed per Toastmaster requirements. The leadership committee, and I will have Darlene, someone post those names on the district website later on, but right now we have one individual from each district, or from each area, from each division is represented on the district leadership committee. So all of those people, and we have, I'll briefly give you those real quick, and I apologize if I messed up the names. On Division A, we have, is it Ritva Ginzel?
Yes.
Division B is Ed Reigel. Division C is Bo Liu. Division D, Eileen Kelly. And Division E, Jim Marquardt. So those names will be up there, and I'll be sending out more information to the leadership committee on exactly what their expectations are, and we'll go forward from there. The committee will be having interviews. And again, this is very nice because, as you heard there from Elizabeth, it's nice to do the Zoom meeting with the interviews to be able to see the face-to-face. The leadership committee will contact anyone that's provided all that required information between February 8th and March 19th to get the interviews and go. And we will have those down shortly. The recommendation will then go from the district executive committee, then at the district council meeting in the elections, and that will be held, make note of this, is on May 15th of 2021. And you believe that, 2021, good grief. The district director-elect will appoint support roles and area directors between May 15th and June 30th. And everyone's role will start July 1st, 2021.
Ed, there was a question in the chat box, and I apologize, I didn't get this on the slide, but the deadline to turn applications in is January 30th, 2021. Is that correct, Ed?
That is correct, yes. And I understood there was a question about area councils as well.
Right.
Very briefly, in your district leadership handbook, again, which you can download or at least just review, excuse me, you can review for the information needed. But for area councils, this is the area director is the area council chair and hosts at least 2 area council meetings each year. And the main purpose for that is, actually there's 2 purposes. Number one is to get the pulse of your areas, your clubs in your areas, and also for the division directors. But the main pulse there is, the main information there is to find out exactly what's going on and make sure that if there are problem areas or you have clubs that need coaches or mentors, find out who those are. Area directors, division directors, make sure that you're up on what is the requirement for DTMs and what do you have to get that information and move forward from there. If you have any information or you have any questions on any information, I or any one of the district leadership council members will be more than happy. But your first order of business would be to contact your first chain of command would be to contact your area director and move up from there. Unfortunately, we don't have Natalie back with us, bless her heart. She's kind of hard to get along with sometimes, but if you smile at her and tell her she's a good gal, she'll take care of you, just like Debbie and Deborah and the rest of the leadership committee is now. That is pretty much all I've got, I think. Is anyone have questions of me? Deborah, anything else that I need to cover?
I miss you too, Ed Keeney.
Yeah, well.
I think that's great, Ed. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Ed or anybody on the panel here today? And let me get my view changed so I can see. I don't see anybody. You might want to raise your paddle or put it in the chat box because I'm not seeing anything. Again, as Ed said, if you have any questions, reach out to him or anyone on the DLC team, and that information is on our District 9 website. Thank you to our fabulous webmaster, Darlene Markward, I always say it wrong, to getting our website set up and updated all the time. So thank you for that. And with that, I thank again Natalie, Nancy, Pam, Elizabeth, and especially Ed for all of your help here today. Big round of happy hands from our team. And with that, I turn it back over to our Toastmaster, Victoria Chatterton.
Thank you so much, Deborah. What a great panel that you put together. And Natalie, you're the reason I am in my position that I am today. It's because you were in this position and I talked to you and you said, you know, talk to Ed. And so I talked to Ed Keaty. He got me involved in the pathways and it's just gone from there. So thank you so much. I appreciate this. All right, everybody, we've been sitting down for quite a while. It is time for a short break. So we're going to have 5 minutes. So Rob, you are my timekeeper. If you could keep track of 5 minutes for us to just get up, stretch, get coffee, take care of some personal needs if we need to, and we'll all be back in 5 minutes. Thank you so much.
I'll just hang out. Hi, everybody. Thanks to everyone who's been sending me messages. I miss you guys. It's so nice to see everyone.
Natalie, I just want to say that when I join one of these Zoom calls, if I can get one good idea, then I feel like it was worth my time. And you gave me some great ideas for generating new members in our club. And I'm going to put those into effect right away.
Awesome. So Rob, what specifically, like two things, what two things are you taking?
What I took from, and of course I'm from Wenatchee, so you were spot on with some things that I don't know if our club has done. And I'm going to go ahead and put those into effect. One of those things is putting a notice in the Wenatchee World paper to let them know about our Toastmaster meetings. Because when I first started with Toastmasters, I didn't know how to go about connecting with Toastmasters. So I Googled it and that didn't work very well. But fortunately, I was able to make contact with the Cascade Speakeasy Club, which I'm now a member of. So that was crucial. The other thing is, I believe we are a nonprofit. So there's absolutely no reason why I can't contact the radio stations and the Wenatchee World newspaper and put in a PSA, which is a public service announcement, to let them know, hey, Toastmasters is here. And if you're interested in improving yourself, here's an opportunity. So
fantastic. Yeah, I think it's especially now social distancing is letting people know that there are ways to connect and continue to work on personal skills that are safe. Yeah, I've been at home since March, so yeah, and I think too that really looking at that ability to, I miss being in person. I miss being at in-person events so much because my whole job is online. But like I said, the ability to express yourself and convey yourself well online is a skill that once the vaccine comes out, that's not going to go away because the way that we're doing business has really changed. And that enables people to work from home, which is a tremendous benefit for a lot of people, to have meetings without having to travel long distances. And the ability to have crisp, good meetings in any format, whether you have people in the room or online, that's a skill that's never going to go away. And it just becomes increasingly more important. And this is a place where you can practice and nothing bad is going to happen. You're not going to lose clients. You're not going to lose an account. You're not going to get in trouble with your boss. You can practice in Toastmasters in a safe environment.
Yeah, let's go.
Hey, Natalie. Natalie,
Yes.
yes, I am the VPE for Colville, Washington.
Yes. Hello.
have
So
no-
nice to see you.
But I want to tell you, I have a Zoom to Florida I joined that one, on Zoom.
Mhm.
I have one in Montana that I do. I have one in Colville, of course. And I am now living in Moreland. I have one in Moreland, and this is all through Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how our world has shifted so very quickly. Deb, I'm keeping an eye on you for time, just so that I don't want to talk over into when the break ends there, because I wasn't keeping attention to that.
I'm keeping the time, Natalie. We have about 30 more seconds, so
Awesome.
we're
Awesome.
doing fine.
Awesome. Well, my friends, I actually am going to be jumping into a Zoom meeting for a different district as soon as this break ends here. But when it is safe and healthy to travel about the country, I am about 10 miles away from World Headquarters. And if you ever come to Denver, you can take a tour. You can get a ribbon saying you visited there. It is just beautiful and a lovely building, and I wish you all health and safety. And if you would like to contact me directly, Deb or Lloyd both have my email, and you're welcome to ask them for that, and they will be happy to pass that on. They've got my okay there. So thanks so much to everyone. I'm gonna go to my next district.
Thank you,
Thank
Natalie. Be well.
Thank you.
Vicki,
All right.
we have eclipsed the 5-minute break.
Okay, thank you so much. That was a wonderful conversation. I liked what Natalie said, is that Toastmasters is a place for us to practice. And as you saw this morning, I was practicing utilizing the slideshow and talking and just trying to do all of this all at once. And it's always very fun. And I think at one point I was sharing my screen with nothing really on it. So if I'm sharing like email with you, let me know. So, private stuff going up there. All right, as we move on, Jackie, I grabbed this slide from your Facebook. I hope it's okay that I use this slide for you, because I am very excited and I just love that photo. So next up we have Jackie. And I asked Jackie if she would do a presentation for us, because everybody knows that our contest season will be starting at the beginning of the year, and there's some new things happening. And so she and I talked, and she came up with this wonderful presentation. And so let me see. I'm not sharing my screen, and you can all just see me, right? And everybody else like that. Okay. Thank you all. All right. Have you heard the phrase, "I didn't have that on my 2020 bingo card," used when another unexpected or crazy thing comes along? Our next speaker would like to give you a metaphorical bingo card of things to expect and watch for as she gives a level 2 speech, Introduction to Toastmaster Mentoring. After the 5 to 7 minute speech, so Rob, you'll be timer, you'll be doing a 5 to 7 minute check for her. So Jackie, pin Rob. We'll break it down and we'll have an opportunity for Q&As to close out this session. So on your bingo card, be looking at things such as lighting, background, framing, use of gestures, camera level, eye contact, and rehearsing, and I'll put those in the chat as well. But please help me welcome right now to the stage. Look, Mom, I'm on Zoom. Jackie Graybell. Jackie Graybell, look, Mom, I'm on Zoom.
Thank you, Vicki. He looked at the binder. He looked back up at me with a curious expression on his face and his eyebrow raised. Hi, I'm Jim, he said. Hi, I'm Jackie. We were meeting at his office where he would set up during the day. There's a coffee shop called Portland Brew. I'd recently moved to Nashville to be a singer-songwriter because I thought country was my thing. And I promptly got a job at Starbucks. I was talking with a client who came through one day. Haley was her name, and she said, you know what? You're a singer-songwriter. I have somebody you have to meet. You have to meet Jim. He is fantastic. And so I got a hold of Jim. This is a couple months into my adventure in Nashville. But when I first moved, I visited a Borders that was going out of business. Does anybody remember Borders? That place where you used to go and buy books. And I had seen a book about songwriting. It was by Cara Diaguardi. She was an American Idol judge for one season, and she was a very prolific songwriter. And I flipped to the back of the book, and it had rules for aspiring songwriters. And one of them was write a song every single day if you are serious about being a songwriter. And I thought to myself, well, I've been a piano teacher for over a decade, and I have a journalism degree. So I have the separate pieces, but I don't really know how to write lyrics. So I will focus on that, and I will write a song a day, just the lyrics. Back to Jim. He's looking at my binder full of these lyrics, and he starts flipping through them. He says, okay, I can tell you're serious about songwriting. And that day started my mentorship with my friend and producer, Jim Riley. He was instrumental in shaping my musical journey. And let me tell you about Jim. He was a very straight shooter. He was from New York, and he would call it like he saw it. If there was something wrong in the industry, he would talk about it. He would say, that's crap. His main value was authenticity. And when he saw labels and artists that were just doing ho-hum work that wasn't true to who they were or their inner voice, it really bothered him. And this is why he was the perfect person to shape my journey. I thought I was going to do country music when I moved, but Jim encouraged me to let my voice explore other possibilities. And it turned out I wasn't a country singer at all. I was more torchy, like Adele or Ingrid Michaelson, think 40s Rosemary Clooney mixed with pop, kind of. And he was able to say, hey, let's explore, let's do something different. Authenticity, so important. Also accountability. He would send me texts all the time. Hi, friend, how you doing? Do you have any new music to share? And I would say, oh, Jim just contacted me. I've got to write something. Okay, I got to write something and send it to him so he can have something to listen to. And he also had the ability to see my potential. Because he was a straight shooter and he would call crap when he saw it, I knew that when he was encouraging with my music, when he said, I love that melody line, or that phrase was really great, he meant it because he was a straight shooter. We would go on to go into the studio and produce 2 albums and multiple singles. And because of his guidance, I was able to develop my voice, to develop this collection of songs that could reach the world. And because of him, one of them took off and has over 800,000 listens on Spotify. That's crazy. I go into my Spotify and I look at the categories and I see the countries where people are listening to my music, and I haven't done any marketing. And I can trace that back to one man, to Jim Riley, who gave me the gift of being myself and who believed in me, who knew that I had something to give the world. I thank Jim every day that I met him and for his mentorship. Thank you. Up until July, I had been in Toastmasters for about a year. I had given a grand whopping total of, you want to know how many speeches I'd given? Count them. 1, 2, 3. That's it. I had my inner critic telling me, oh, you better be careful, take on roles, but speaking, that might be a little dangerous. Actually, my inner critic, her name is Batista, and she sounds more like this. You don't want to do that because you know how many DTMs there are in the group? There are 4 DTMs, and they are gonna know if you have filler words, ands, buts, so's. Girl, you need to make sure that you are safe. By the way, Rob, we're now into the rest of it, and the total is 45 minutes, so you don't need to hold up anything else. I'm timing it unless my phone dies. Thank you. In fact, Rob was instrumental in my journey, and let me tell you why. One day, I received an email that changed everything. Rob, our president, had nominated me to be president of Cascade Speakeasy. Me, who had only given 3 speeches. And I thought, you know what? If he sees something in me, if the other people in my club see something in me, like my mentor Jim did, then maybe I can speak. Maybe I can really do this. And I gave my first Zoom speech on July 13th. I will remember it forever. And it went amazing. I got done and I was doing a happy dance. I was like, yes, 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 yes. It was awesome. Now, as Natalie said earlier, we're lifelong learners, and I have picked up a few tips and tricks along the way about how to give a speech on Zoom, about how to make sure that you are presenting yourself as professionally as you possibly can. Now, some of these might be a little controversial, so save up your questions for the end because we're going to do a question and answer session at the end. But hopefully, I'm going to give you 7 tips and tricks, and hopefully there's one that you may be able to take back and use to start incorporating into your speeches. Now, I'll just clarify, when I'm talking about these, I'm talking about speeches. I'm not talking about sitting at a meeting, having a role necessarily. And specifically, if you are going to be in a competition. Earlier today, in fact, 2 hours ago, I gave a 20-minute keynote at a division contest here in the UK. And I was paying attention to the different things that the speakers were doing, so I may reference those throughout. The first thing that is really important to know is you can practice. You don't have to do all these things at once when you're in a meeting. Zoom has a really amazing feature where you can go in on your own and you can start a new meeting. It's just you in the meeting and your face will fill up the screen. So all of these things that I'm going to be talking about, you can go and reference and work on yourself. You can also record yourself speaking, so you can go back and look at what you're doing. I know that's a little bit intimidating to think about looking at the video of ourselves, but it's really helpful because you'll come in with a fresh perspective that you might not have had while you were doing the actual speech. It's a great way to practice, by the way. Instead of practicing in front of the mirror, to practice with Zoom. Amazing. Keep that in mind. All right, number 2 is framing and gestures. If you'll notice, I'm far enough back that my waist all the way to the top of my head is in the frame. Now, this is important for several reasons. First of all, if I have my hands down, I'm not going to be in my power position as much, right? So most of the time when we have gestures, we're coming from this space. If you sit down while you speak, and I've seen a lot of speakers do this, you are losing really important amounts of energy because you're losing half your body. And I don't know if you've noticed, but when you sit and you give a speech, your hands don't move as much and you're not able to be as active and use as much of your space because you're not standing. So if you can at all, and I know some people may not be able to, if you can at all, stand when giving your speech. You also want to make sure that your head is not cut off. This is something I have done. And in my feedback, somebody would say, make sure your head's not cut off. That is important because you don't want to be giving your speech like this and all they're seeing is your mouth, right? You want to make sure that you're framed properly. All right, and that your gestures, that you're fully using your space. Let me talk next about backgrounds. This may be a little controversial, but I'm going to say it anyways, in the context of contests, especially. Your background is going to be very, very important. If I was giving a speech, if I was in a speech contest, I probably wouldn't have this background. I like it because it gives a little pop of color when I'm just giving a normal speech, but you would want something that is very non-obtrusive, like just a white background if you can at all. So backgrounds are really important because they can be distracting. There was somebody earlier today that one of his backgrounds, he had a metal molding of a girl in a bikini next to him. That was so distracting. And then another person had a fish tank and I was watching the fishes float by while he was speaking. The other thing about backgrounds that you really want to be careful about, because virtual backgrounds are really, really fun, but they're great for if you're sitting still. Have you noticed that if there's a virtual background and you move it all and you're gesturing, you're going to lose body parts. And we don't want to lose body parts when we're giving speeches, because this is going to take away the attention and the intention of what you're saying. So that is really an important thing to think about. I think maybe if you have a green screen and you've practiced ahead of time, and this is back to where that practice comes in, that recording, just making sure, okay, am I losing body parts or am I blending into the background? What does that look like? That's really important. Number 4 is your lighting. The lighting and the video quality is really important as well, because if you're super blurry, then you're not going to be able to have everybody's focus and come across as professionally as you would like. Please don't be outside when you're giving a speech. That is the toughest lighting because you have to know exactly where the sun is. You have to make sure that you don't have a grainy quality in your video. Just don't do it. I personally have gotten a webcam because my meetings with Cascade Speakeasy, because I'm in the UK right now, they're at 1:30 in the morning. There's not a lot of natural light at 1:30 in the morning. So I went ahead and got, it equates to about $80, it was 60 pounds, a webcam called Papa Look is the name of it. And it really increases the quality of your video and jumps it up. And then what I also have, I'm gonna go out of camera for a second, is I have this lamp that I angled up, and depending on what the light is in the room, I will angle it to make sure that the lighting is not harsh, that everybody can see me. So play around with your lighting. Go into Zoom, see, okay, what does the lighting look like if I'm sitting here by the window? Do I look washed out? Is it grainy? Or do I have weird shadows coming everywhere? I'm gonna keep harping on it again, back to that practice and watching yourself in Zoom. So that is the lighting. 5, the camera placement. This is really important as well. You want to be at eye level with that camera. Because if you're not, what can happen is what I call the Jabba the Hutt effect. And I have been sitting on my bed, WhatsApp calling my family, and I'll have the video down here and I'll be looking and like, why do I have 7 chins? Oh my gosh, it is not complimenting at all to have your camera lower and pointing up at you. It's also not going to be good if it's looking down at you as well, because your audience has the effect that they're looking down on you, and it's a little off-putting. The best is going to be if you are looking straight at the camera. Now, what I usually do when I'm speaking is I will put it in gallery view and just have myself, one of the little thumbnails on top, so I can just glance down in my peripheral vision every little bit to make sure that when I move in like this, if I'm making a point, that I don't cut off my head, and that if I come back, I'm still within the frame that I want. You can do that peripherally. So what your goal is to look at the camera when you are giving your speech, and then use your peripheral for your framing, and also to pay attention to what your audience is doing. Because that's one thing we don't get with Zoom, right? We don't get that immediate audience participation with the laughs or the smiles or the yawns, hopefully not, whatever. So that is really important for your camera placement. And the 6th was the eye contact. Fit that in there too. 7, this is a hack. And I have a confession to make. So with this hack that I'm going to tell you, well, first, before I tell you the hack, I will say that earlier in the contest, one of the contestants lost their place. And she had to look down at her notes that were over here off camera for about 5 seconds. And then she came back. And that's distracting because you could tell she was looking at her notes. Now you could hypothetically on Zoom, I guess you could read your whole speech if you wanted to. I don't recommend that because that's going to take you out of the energy of your speech. But if you want just basic elements to make sure that you hit everything and that there's nothing you've forgotten and it doesn't look like as much you're looking at your notes, this is my confession. This is my hack. Sticky notes. And I don't even know if this is legal in a contest, so you may just do this just, you know, for normal speeches. To take a sticky note, long sticky note, and you can just write your bullet points on it and stick it on either side of your camera. So right now, I will show you what I have. I'm going to out myself. This is my confession. Those are my bullet points. And you couldn't tell that I was probably you couldn't tell that I was looking at them. Maybe if I was looking at them too much. So that's my hack. If you absolutely need notes and you want to make sure that you're not going to forget anything, having it up next to your camera is a really good way to do that, because you can just glance over really quickly and then glance back, and it's not detracting from what you're saying. I wouldn't recommend going down the sides. I've tried that and I got a note, oh, you might not want to use notes. But I have gotten before people said, oh, no, you didn't even use any notes. And I was like, actually I did, but I'm not going to out myself. But now I just outed myself. So there you go. Confession time. Having said all of that, I know that there may be some questions, and I would love to answer any of those. So Vicki, would you mind reading any questions in the chat? I have the chat hidden if there are any questions, or if anyone wants to raise their hand, would you go ahead and call those out?
Yes, one of the first questions we had was about your camera. Could you please tell us the brand name again? And if you need to spell it, that would be great too.
Yes, it's called Papa Look. P-A-P-A-L-O-O-K.
Oh, okay, because I thought pop like P-O-P. So
yes, I guess technically
look, okay, now
Papa Look, wouldn't it? Papa Look, Papa. I guess I was thinking
Papa.
it's like it's like the word Papa, P-A-P-A.
Papa.
Papa.
Yeah, because you
look.
Papa look.
Papa Look. Yes. I guess it's Papa. Who's your daddy? It's your webcam. And the nice thing about it too is that it has a little bit of light as well. So that helps the quality.
Thank you. All right. Does anybody else have any questions about the things that she went over? Lighting, background, framing, camera level, eye contact, any tips or trades or anything that you want to know about? All right. While they're doing that, I'll just say, Jackie, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed watching you develop your techniques on Zoom. Just every week you are going for it, and I appreciate it. And I think that on this platform with virtual, we may see more contestants, because we've been practicing since March on Zoom, and we may feel a little bit more comfortable on the contest with that, because we're used to it, whereas we wouldn't have to stand up in a room full of 100 people. We have questions coming in. So Frank, if you can unmute yourself, and you can ask your question of Jackie.
Jackie, real quick, what is, like, if you were to use a solid color background, would you consider, or would you say that like a lighter blue, a lighter green, a gray, any offset colors, more pastel instead of dark would be the best options?
Yeah, that's a great question, by the way. I would say that the lighter you can do, the better. You just want to ask yourself the question, is this distracting? And if it's going to distract, then it's probably not a good idea. I mean, a white, I think is, and Vicki, correct me if I'm wrong, with the contest, I think a white background is what they want. But I think that when you're giving speeches normally, if it's something that doesn't distract, that's a lighter color will probably be better, because, well, as long as it doesn't clash with what you're wearing.
Pure white background, or could it be like an off-white?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because to me,
anything in the
white would be too bright.
white realm.
If I could
Sorry,
jump,
say it one time.
this is Deborah. I'll just jump in a minute. Lindy McLean spoke Wednesday at Women of Influence's meeting. She's the third place world champion in public speaking this past year. She has a light blue background that she described as sky blue. And she tried several different things, and that's what worked best for her based on her complexion and lighting and all of that.
So practice, and that we That's what we're going to be doing, is practicing. Stan had his hand up, and I lowered it before we had a question answered by Stan. So Stan, if you still have a question, could you unmute yourself and ask it?
Just got answered.
Okay, it just got answered. Yay! Next up then, we have Kelly Hansen. If you could unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, I've got a green screen that works really good with Zoom, but if I'm trying to record just on my laptop or something like that, other meetings, it does. I haven't found a software that can utilize the green screen.
Okay.
Is there some software that we can use to do that?
Ooh, that's a great question. I do not know the answer, but I will work with Vicky to see if we can find something.
That sounds great. And like I said, we will be having lots of practice time and questions and just practice throughout the next couple months.
Along with that, Vicky, the practice time, one of the great benefits of Zoom is you can essentially practice on your stage. Like if you're going to a contest, you can't always get in that room. I say this as somebody who's never been in a contest yet, but you can't always get in that room. The novice is learning. We can't always get in that room and go over our speech like we would if it was the day of, to get on the stage and feel what that space feels like. But you can on Zoom. Every single day you could get on if you want and get comfortable with it. So that comfort level, I think, is huge.
All right, thank you. Kelly, if we answered your question, give me a thumbs up and I'll move on to the next person. All right, thank you so much. Next up is Frank Briggs.
The other thing too, real quick, Jackie, is with that camera, does it come with a remote start so you don't have to walk up to your computer and start the video, that you can, it's kind of like a PowerPoint type thing? Would that work? Or is there a remote start button?
Well, actually what it is it just plugs straight into your laptop. And I have a MacBook Air, so I just got a little adapter, the USB adapter, and it goes straight into your laptop. I'm sure it could go into other devices as well, but that's how it's powered. So what I do is every time before I'm going to give a speech, no matter where I'm at, because the lighting can change, what I'm wearing can change, whatever, I will pull up Zoom and I will go through a little bit of my speech, kind of move around, make sure it's situated correctly, and make sure that the camera is working and on and all of that. And then I just leave it right there. So then when I go into my meeting, I know it's already on, it's already going. So that doesn't have to do with recording necessarily. It just has to do with the visual aspect of the camera. Does that answer your question? Okay, awesome.
All right, next up we have David Lucas raised his hand next. So David, if you could unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Jackie, a question. I know people have mentioned it and it's become popular, the green screen backgrounds that you can load into Zoom. When you move, it obviously leads to ripples and irregularities. What are some of your thoughts or suggestions on using that, or would you recommend not using it at all for anything that's not a casual presentation or something with regard to just a social piece?
That's a great question. And I would answer saying, don't use it. Just because it's going to distract. I mean, if you're sitting in a club training and you're not saying anything, yeah, that's going to be fine, because you're not going to have, the ripples like you mentioned, or you're not going to be disappearing into anything. But going back to that key question is this going to distract? And unfortunately, the backgrounds that I have seen, I haven't seen any that don't distract. When you're up and you're talking and you're giving a dynamic presentation, which you want to do, you want to have some gestures. I guess that's the controversial opinion that I have, is don't use it. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Elaine Kelly.
I have two practical concerns.
Yes.
One is that The division that we're in is very rural, and I'm concerned about internet glitches and things like that. And the other one is, how are we going to monitor audience participation for the voting?
I
Okay,
think that
so
might
there
be
will be no,
tricky.
yeah, there with the judges for contests, you have your judges ballot, and the judges will already be assigned. And so we have a procedure for that in order for the judging for the contest. And we will be going over that in the month of January for all people that will be running contests. So more information about how that works, but we will have that. As far as internet connection, we will also be able to have practice times and see how that is and come up with tips on what people can do, because for contests, it is required that each participant be in their own space using their own equipment.
And I will just say, Elaine, one of the contestants at the competition earlier today, she had internet that wasn't a very good connection, and she kept cutting out, and she didn't place it. I have to think that that's part of it, because again, going back to the making sure that you're not distracting, it's going to distract from what you have to say if your internet is going in or out. So if it was me, I might be prone to go to somebody else's house, or maybe a place where I knew that the internet was a little more stable, but there may be other options that are better. What I would recommend, again, back to recording and seeing if how it comes across when you're recording yourself and practicing on Zoom.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ed Keeney. If you can unmute yourself.
Hi, Jackie. I have a suggestion for you on your presentations. When you were talking and made reference to a book, you were using your fists. I would encourage you and anyone, use the charades type. So if you're talking about a book, use it like this instead, because that to me was distracting. As you were talking, I'm thinking book and you're doing this, like what's the deal here? So, and one other suggestion is, if you are recording a presentation, I found it very beneficial the first time I ever tried that, is to take that recording and run it fast forward. And you will find a whole lot of things that you do and don't do with your gestures. I found with me, instead of using both hands, I had one hand that was down to the side, and the other one I was doing Mickey Mouse things like this, going back and forth. And then I could just envision people shaking their heads, kind of like watching a tennis match type thing. But it's very beneficial. If you haven't ever tried it, just do it a couple of times for fun, and you'll see, and you'll find that you'll be a whole lot better into your presentation style. Good presentation, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate that. That means a lot, because I am a newbie and I am still learning so many things. And like you said, there's so many things you don't even realize you do. I had no idea I was doing that. So thank you for pointing that out. And I'm totally going to take that suggestion and fast forward it. I'd never thought of that. It was brilliant. Thank you, Ed. You're amazing.
And don't take it as being just a newbie. You're a newbie. There's no just to anything. And I guarantee you, in my years that I've been in here, I still learn something every single time I do a presentation. And that's where I have a lot of fun. And that's where I miss the conventions and the conferences, is talking to new folks that have been, and then you say, well, gee, I never noticed that you didn't do this or you did do that. And you kind of get set in your old ways, regardless of what you try to do new. So take each one of those things and take the word just out of the vocabulary. You're not just anything. You are a Toastmaster, upcoming leader.
Thank you, Ed. Stan, you had another question?
Yeah, actually a recommendation. I was having the same problem when I first got on Zoom with fading out and whatnot. And where is your web server in relationship to your computer? Is it in another room? And are you doing it wirelessly? I brought my web into my office And I am now actually hooked direct to my web server or the box. And I have not had any problems since. So I think sometimes some of the people that are having problems, and we have this in our own club where people are cutting out and whatnot, you need to figure out how you're hooked up to your web, can't think what you call it now, the box. And you may want to hardwire it. And it will stop some of these low problems and stuff. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's fabulous. So maybe take that idea, Elaine, and see if that might be a thing to do. Thank you.
Closing words, Jackie?
Thank you for giving me a chance to give this really fun training and for being involved. I have loved this. This is so fun. And just remember, get out there on Zoom. It's fun. You can do it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And we will be going through the chat. If there's any questions that we missed, we'll make sure to get back to you. And now let's see how well I can do this. So I found these cartoons. How many of us have rooms like this? Or this one. I have grandchildren, all their toys are in front of me, but look, I look like I'm in Paris, so. All right. Oh, I wanted to share some more because okay, so next up, we have Karen Mobley talking to us about Meetup. I am so excited about this. This is part of an ongoing marketing. And speaking of marketing, before we get to that, I just remembered I had created this poll. And so if you guys could do this poll really quickly, we need to know how you heard about this training so we know what is most effective. Did you hear about it through the newsletter, your area director, a club meeting, the website, our Facebook page, some other way? We just need to know what is the best way to communicate these. And so therefore we're getting the word out. Maybe we need to use all of these methods. Maybe there's just another type of method. So great, thank you all. We're about 64%. We're almost have everybody filling that out. I appreciate it so much. Right. And I'm going to end the poll in just a few more seconds. All right, thank you all. It is my pleasure to welcome Karen Mobley speaking about Meetup. Please help me welcome Karen. Woo!
Thank you, Victoria. If you could please start the screen share for my presentation.
Yes, I will. Talk amongst yourselves because this is one of those technology things that you have to learn. So go ahead and just talk to your audience for just a second while I bring that up. Whoops, wrong one.
Well, just to answer one of the questions that was in the chat line, Vicki, while you're working on that, someone asked if Jackie actually got up at 1:30 in the morning to attend her Toastmasters club meetings. And the answer is yes. Not only does she get up at 1:30 a.m., she is the president of our club. So she is incredible.
Okay, yes, she does. Technology, you've got to love it. Oh, I know one thing that I need to do is drop into the chat your PowerPoint or your handout, correct? Is that what you
Right,
want?
there's two of them. One is a copy of the presentation itself, and one is a handout for every member of the club. So folks, if you've got club members, not just the officers, but club members, make sure they get a copy of the handout and the presentation, because this is not just limited to your club officers. This is information for every member of your club. Old, new, indifferent, active, doesn't matter. Everybody needs to know what we have going on with Meetup.
Vicki, do you want me to share?
If you could share, Deborah, that would be great, because for some reason I am not sharing today. Technology is not liking me today. Oh, you know what? I bet I did find it, but go ahead, Deborah, because you're on. Yep, I have it open 4 times. If I couldn't find it. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you. All righty. So right here's good, Deborah, thank you. What is Meetup? Meetup is a social media site. This is one of their logos. What you see here is the website that you would go to log in, take a look, see what's there. What is it? Meetup is a platform for finding and building local communities, just like it says here. Think of the print media that we have used traditionally. Think about your newspapers, your little local newspapers like the Giant Nickel or Nickel Saver, the paper flyers we go put up at the grocery stores, things of that kind of nature. How do you make that virtual? That's what Meetup does. Think of it as a giant yellow pages for clubs, for meetings. How do you find people with interests like yourselves? That's what this media does. You can search by your interests. You can search by your locale. There's all different ways to find the groups that you're interested in. Several years ago, the district set up regional groups. There are 6 of them for all the clubs in the district. And somewhere along the way, everyone has forgotten. Information wasn't passed on from one group to the next when it comes to officers and members. So I'm bringing this information back to all of you to regain our awareness and to really make use of this social media platform in the current environment. So that way we are making the most use of the tools we have available to market our clubs and to stop keeping Toastmasters a secret, but to share it with everyone around us. Can I have the next slide, please? How does it work? 1, you have to go in and create an account. And I have just a little snippet here of how you set up a Meetup account. The handouts that I've given you, one of them is a copy of this presentation, which has this information on it. The other one is detailed step-by-step instructions. So click here, toggle that, enter here, do this, do that, as you go step-by-step through, so you can make notes for what you need to do, where you need to go, how you need to do it as you're going through the process. And by creating an account, I mean the individual people need to do the account. This is the way that you access Meetup. You're then going to navigate to try and find your Meetup group. Meetup group means the district level accounts. So I have those written down for you, and they are Toastmasters clubs of the Tri-Cities, in Yakima, in Spokane, in Coeur d'Alene, in Walla Walla, and in Wenatchee. There are 6 groups set up by geographical locations. So all the groups in Walla Walla will also include places like Pendleton and Hermiston. Tri-Cities is the greater Tri-Cities area. It would include all of the cities here. Spokane, that's a pretty large area. And there is some overlap between the Spokane group and the Coeur d'Alene group. So you'll see clubs that are in Coeur d'Alene included in both groupings. It's just an artifact of how they had to set things up back in the day. If there's a problem with that, we can clean it up if you bring it to my attention. When you find the group that your club is in, for example, if you are in the Wenatchee area, you're going to look for the Wenatchee club, or excuse me, the group, and then join the group. And from within there, then you go find your club's individual page. A page was set up for every club in the district, and you're going to join that club. And then from there, that's how you're going to manage your club activities. So that way you're keeping information fresh and up to date. So as people are browsing and looking for your clubs, they will see that you're active, that there's people involved, stuff is happening. It's not just an abandoned page. And you want to make sure that everyone in your club RSVPs to each event. So people browsing, again, see you're active. People are doing things. People are attending the meetings. It's not just, oh, there's only one person there. I'm not interested in a club or group that's that poorly attended. Next website, please. This is what your landing page, when you go to look for Meetup, it looks like. So you can see their logo in the upper right-hand side. On your side there with the big maroon arrow, if you have an existing Meetup account, you're going to log in here. If you are new, this is the page where you're going to sign up at, and you're going to click the sign up link. And then we'll navigate from there to the different steps depending on which direction you're going. Next slide, please. Club pages. As I said, every club has a page. This is a quick snapshot of the Apple Valley Communicators page. You can see that you've got the title at the top. You've got a nice picture there showing the entire group. On the right-hand side of the page, you will see which group they are located in. Below that, there's the date and time of when they meet and how often do they meet. And you can see that down there. If that's not the correct time and date for your club, if the meeting location, which is right underneath it, is not correct, the designated person for your club needs to go in and update that information because people are not going to find you. How do we go in and make the changes and the updates? Every club needs to have a co-host. They are also known as the event host. You are going to have to talk amongst yourselves at the club and determine who that point of contact is going to be, who will be responsible for keeping your information updated. Next slide, please. Who is your event organizer? The best candidates are your vice president of public relations or your vice president of membership. It could be any member of your club, perhaps because the sergeant of arms is responsible for your meeting room, setting up your signage, arranging tables and chairs. On the virtual side of the house, maybe this is something that they could take over. Again, as a club, you need to decide who is going to be responsible for this. You need to make sure that the district meetup organizer, which currently at the moment is myself, knows who your event organizer is. So that way that person can be given access to the web page so it can be maintained. You need to make sure that your location, your date, your time, and does your club meet online? Most areas are in lockdown. You cannot have an in-person meeting. People are looking for online activities to stay engaged, to not be isolated. Does this page tell you that this club is accessible online? It's a click one button. and that information is out there. You just put in the link for your page, for your Zoom meetings, WebEx, whatever media you use for your online activities. But your club host can't be enabled if the district organizer does not know. That organizer also has to have a Meetup account. So if they don't, they need to do that and then send that information over. What can they do? We've already discussed the location, date, and time. Add pictures. You can change that big picture that's on the landing page for your club. You can make an album, so that way there's all these pictures. Put your past pictures on there. Did you have your officer investiture? Are you inducting new members? Did you have a picnic, an open house? Take a screenshot of your online meetings, put those in there so people can see that you're active, that you're having fun. Let people see how great your club really is. Next slide, please. Questions, answers. Was everything posted into the chat so people can download the handouts?
Yes, I put the handout in there, but I will drop it in again now, just in case people sign on afterwards. All right, it is in there again. Any questions for, okay. Who is our district meetup organizer?
That would be me at this point in time. I don't have a person on my social media team to handle the meetup administration. So as you determine who your club co-hosts are going to be, send me an email with that specific information. And I will get them set up and I will get that information over to your group. I would suggest also having the secretary put that in your club minutes as to who your person is and how they get that information updated. As the administrators change for your club, make sure that the district knows so that way the event host can be updated as changes happen.
Thank you. And I just wanted to let you know that I will be sending information such as handouts and so forth to our wonderful webmaster, Darlene, to be putting on our website. Stan has a question for you, Karen.
Absolutely. Go, Stan.
Yes. I guess I don't understand. Is this taking the place of something?
No.
And, okay,
it's an additional tool, an additional tool.
Okay. And is there a charge for this, or does each club have to?
No, it is free to the clubs. The district makes the payments twice a year.
So we just need somebody like in Moonlighters needs to go in, sign up, and keep everything up to date on it.
Correct.
But no charge. But
correct.
I've perused the handout you just sent out. We just go in and sign up, get involved in it, and we can start automatically being able to communicate back and forth with everybody in the district, I take it.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Karen?
Yes?
This is Linda Murphy with Colville Toastmasters.
Hi.
I don't know how to get my picture up there, but I don't look better than the peacock anyway. But we had taken our own money and signed up for a meetup a couple months ago. And I like the fact that they give you, I think, 12 subtitles, different ways for people to find you, like writer's block. Are you suffering from writer's block, or are you, anyway, I like that fact. But I wondered, because we paid our own personal money for our account, do I now have 2 accounts?
Yes.
So I
have 2 pages for your club.
Okay, so when ours expires, we can just let that go and continue on with the one that TI has provided. All right, thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
We have a question. Are clubs in Moscow, Lewiston in a meetup group somewhere?
I would think that they're either part of the Spokane or the Coeur d'Alene group, but I will make a note of it and I will check and find out which group that they are actually located in. And who is that, so I can respond back?
Mark Havens.
Got it. Thank you, Mark.
That's me, Karen.
Yep.
I know that, I mean, Meetup is not a new social media. It's been around for years. And for a while, it was very popular in the college towns of Moscow and Pullman. Perhaps still is, less so down in Lewiston and Clarkston. But I certainly want to investigate this.
You got it. As soon as I find out, I will let you know.
Thank you.
And then we have the question, is this more popular than Facebook?
I would say equal. In the handout on the first page, you have the statistics that were valid for the 2017 calendar year. They had, I don't know, something like 90 million people a month or 9 million people a month, something like that, working in their space, I guess you would call it. I would say it's not a competitor, but rather I would consider it a companion. Because Facebook's, you know, all your current activities, here's what happened today and here's what happened, you know, don't forget this, don't forget that. Where Meetup is here's the yellow page version, because you're not constantly having that rolling activity like you do in Facebook. So that's kind of a way to look at them. They're companions rather than competitors.
And does the club event organizer need a paid account?
There is no paid account for Meetup. It's free. The district pays to have groups. So when you set up a group, that's where the payment is. It is free for the individual users.
Thank you. And Ian made a comment. I just downloaded the app, found the group and signed up, and it took about 2 minutes. Very easy. That's good.
Awesome.
That's very good to know, because I'm, as you can see, technically challenged sometimes. And so that's great to know. Could you put your email in the chat for everybody, Karen? So in case they have questions about this.
You got it.
All right. And Jackie has put in the model of the webcam in chat, and that it's free to record Zoom even if you have a free account, just so everybody knows. And also Zoom is letting everybody on Thanksgiving, just a plug, to have as long meetings as they want. So even if you have a free account, you're not cut off on that 40 minutes on Thanksgiving. So talk to lots of people on Zoom. Any other questions for, okay, placing Meetup links on older websites and social media. So Tom Page had a question about placing in on older websites and social media. Can you address that?
Absolutely. Free Toast Host has a way for you to add your Meetup link. It's like a little button. It's a little icon. It goes in there in the Meetup or social media section for your club. So you'd have like Facebook in there, Meetup. If you had a Twitter account or an Instagram account, whatever social media you have for your club, there's a little section Free Toast Host dedicates for that. That's easy to put in there. You can put it in your Facebook account. It's very easy to do. There is I call it a facts section. It's the FAQs that give you step-by-step instructions for doing all of these kinds of things. How do I set up an account? How do I link to other websites? How do I add this to other websites? So on and so forth. It's a very rich environment. I encourage everyone to look at those FAQs. Reach out to me. I'll do what I can to help. I have zero experience with Apple products, so I will be worse than useless for helping you in the Apple environment. But I have noticed, as you can see in the handout I've given, that Meetup does include instructions for people who use the Apple products on how to make those things work.
Great. Thank you so much, Karen. We are going to take a break, but if you have questions that still need to be answered, we're here to answer those during the break. If for some reason on last break or throughout this meeting, you have gotten kicked off and come back into the meeting and haven't put your role as far as treasurer, president, whatever room you want to go in, if you could redo that. Oh, very festive, Karen. That would be great, because I will be making the breakout rooms during break, because we will be going to club officer training. If you don't have any role beside your name, I will be putting you in another room to just network and talk and so forth. But if you want credit for club officer training, you need to go to one of the breakout rooms. All right, so we have a 5-minute break, so that will be 11:06 when you come back. Rob, are you keeping time for me?
The clock has started, Vicki.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
What was it, Vicki, 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
How are you? What are you doing? I am folding laundry. That is a lot of laundry. It is a lot of laundry.
Question, if anybody's still on here then. When you sign up and meet up, what are we looking for group name to sign up with? Does anybody know?
I could be wrong, but I believe you look in your geographical area, and then you can find the clubs within the geographical area.
Thank you.
Vicki,
Yes.
you hear me okay? This is Dwayne Armando.
Hi, Dwayne.
How you doing? This has been a great presentation so far, but I have a question on Meetup. If we want to set that up for another organization, what is the cost to set it up? The cost was never mentioned.
That would be a question for Karen, or if anybody online knows. I do not know, but if anybody has an answer for Dwayne, please let him know. And Dwayne, are you going to club officer training? Or are you an officer?
Yes.
Where are you going?
I guess I'll go to, I've been in all of them.
I know.
2 or 3 of them already.
I know, as many of us on this call.
I guess that's where I'm at right now. Fraser will be okay.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Dwayne, we set one up for $50.
Oh, okay.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that. Thank you.
Yeah, Vicki, I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Will. I have no clue where we're going to go from here. Where do I find it? Was that question asked, or?
Okay, so Will, you're president, correct?
I'm the president of the club, but where do I go from here?
I have you in that breakout room, and after break, I'll be sending everybody to their breakout room, so you don't have to do anything.
Okay, and then I have some questions also, just general questions for Toastmasters, I think.
Yep.
But I think it was a good time to ask them with these speakers. When would be a good time to ask those questions?
What question do you have? What question do you have?
Well, one of the question is, when you first open a meeting and the president opens it, is that a normal way of doing it? What is a normal way of opening a meeting?
Okay, so these are president questions. So you'll find those answers in your breakout room. So yeah.
Okay.
You can ask those in there if you don't.
And then also one more question then. Well, I could go in the president's room too. I can ask all those questions in the president's room.
Oh, yeah, I do.
All right.
My bumblebee blanket.
I'd like to see the bumblebee.
Yeah, somebody has a bumblebee.
Victoria, are we assigned?
I don't want you in here.
Or do we have to just join one?
I will be sending you to the rooms.
You end up.
If you're not talking to the Toastmasters, if you could mute yourselves, that would be great. Okay, Frank, let me see breakout rooms. I will be sending everybody to their breakout room after the break. Let me see, Frank, I think I have you in a room already. Yep, I have you in your room already. So you'll just get a message that you'll be going to your room when it's time. So you don't have to do anything else.
Go to your room, Frank.
Just beat me to that, Deborah, by a second.
Room in front of the camera. If I was to actually move my computer screen down, my camera down behind me, I have all of my Toastmaster and my nonprofit stuff sitting in piles behind me. So it's like, yeah, that was kind of funny. I can live that one purpose, fully. So.
Yes. Yes.
Deborah, this is Ed for a question.
Yes.
Was there any decision ever made as to what to do with the old traditional manuals?
No.
Do you have any suggestions, or Vicki, any suggestions?
I reached out to, I think I posted something in my district director group, and crickets. I didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
Would it be permissible to donate them to homeschooling groups?
I would say no, they're copyrighted.
What about prison clubs?
Same thing. Prison clubs, we're using the pathways now. We can't use the other ones.
I think I reached out to gavel clubs, people that had gavel clubs.
No.
But I did not get any response. 5 minutes, according to
Yeah.
Rob.
Thank you, Rob. All right. Welcome back, everybody. So technology is fun. I've got a lot of people in rooms, and if you're not in a room, I will be sending you, after I get those who are already assigned, to the correct rooms. So I'm going to go ahead and open up rooms, and we'll get you there as quickly as possible. So presenters, if you could just introduce yourself, and then I will send a message that everybody is in their rooms and to get started on your presentation, because that's how it's going to work. And enjoy, and we'll be back in a little bit.
Vicki, are you going to enable screen sharing?
Yes, it should be enabled. If not, send me a message. You'll be able to. So
Thank you.
you've all been appointed. All right. So, Ann John, where would you like to go? Unmute yourself and let me know where you want to go.
What are the groups?
It's for club officers. Which club officer would you like to go to?
Membership.
All right. Thank you so much. Carla, where would you like to go? And you can all just unmute yourself, and I will get you. Okay.
Vicki, would you like me to stay in the main room?
No, I thought I sent you to the, oh, and if you're in secretary, you'll be staying here. Sorry, I forgot to say that. Secretary will be staying here. So.
Hey, Vicki, could you send me to the PR? I'm the PR person.
And who is speaking to me right now?
Sydney Himmenmore.
Thank you, Sydney. And you said PR?
Yes.
Thank you. So
let's see, join. Okay, I got it here. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. If you're secretary, you're going to be staying here. Let me see who else. So if you don't want to be in secretary, which I'm assuming a lot of you still do not, because I've got quite a bit of people in here. I am sending you, if I now see where you want to go. Dwayne, if you could unmute yourself and let me know where you would like to go. You said you didn't care, but.
Treasurer's office. Send me to treasurer.
Perfect. There you go. Sean and Brenda, where would you like to be assigned?
Just put us in whatever group doesn't have the most people.
Okay. Let's do that. Okay. Rob, you are so patient.
That's fine.
I think you are in a room. You just haven't joined yet. Go to the bottom and click.
Oh, no, it's fine. I just didn't know if it was beneficial for me to go to the Sergeant at Arms meeting
Oh.
because.
You wanted
I
VP of
think-
E.
Yes, I would.
Yeah, there you go.
Goodbye.
Go to the
Bye.
bottom and click where?
If you already have been assigned a breakout room, it should say breakout room and you can click and do that.
I don't see
Now,
one.
are you secretary?
PR.
You're PR. Okay. Let me get you into PR really quick.
Thank you.
PR. There you go.
Thank you.
Vicky, Chuck Richardson, I didn't say anything for me to go anywhere.
Where would you like to go?
You really want to know?
Well, choose an office. Choose an office.
Let's go Presidente.
All right, there you go.
Thank you.
I don't still see a connection. Oh, there you go. Finally. Okay. Good.
Sorry about that. Okay. Pam, do you want to go in Deborah's room?
Sure.
Or are you an officer?
Okay, I'm talking I'm the other Pam here. The one that says Pam Murray with no video, that was on my tablet and I tried to get out and I couldn't. So that
Okay.
I am a Gemini, but
so you're going to VP of you're going to VP education,
VPE.
correct?
Yeah.
Send you there. And that's always fun when we have two devices. I get to send them both there. If you're on a phone, I'm going to say the last four digits of your number. Tell me where you want to go. Phone number ending in 5466. Where would you like to go? Okay. How about phone number ending in 3829? Where would you like to go? Okay. How about 9771? You're all secretaries? Okay. We are about to start secretary training. If you do not want to go in secretary training, I suggest now you let me know. Link, where do you want to go?
Sergeant of Arms, please.
All right. Perfect. Thank you all secretaries waiting for me. Steve, what's your role, Steve Schwinn? Are you membership? Okay.
I think he is, Vicky.
I think he's membership also.
Just put him there.
All right. Hold on for just a second, everyone. Welcome, everyone. Speak now or forever hold your peace because we're starting secretary training. I'm on for secretary. Yay. All right.
Hey, Victoria, my room didn't come up. I don't know why.
Okay, Tom, which
Division director.
Okay, but what's your club officer role?
Oh, yeah, club officer. Oh, I'm membership. Yeah, sorry.
Your
Based on-
membership. All right. Thank you.
Membership.
Okay. Sarah, what role are you in? Okay, VPE. Thank you, Sarah. You're going to VPE. Christopher.
Yes.
What?
I haven't been assigned a
Yep.
role yet. I'm still kind of new.
So have you taken, so you're not a club officer yet?
No, not yet. So how do I become that?
Okay, I'm going to send you to Deborah's room and you can ask her all sorts of questions about that.
All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Hi, Karen.
Send me back to
Are
Deborah,
you in
please.
the right room?
I need to go back to Deborah.
I thought I sent you to Deborah, but let me go back. This is so much fun. Sorry about this, treasures. This is the last time that I try and do everything all at once. Okay, Karen, can you go down to breakout room and see if it says join breakout room?
Yes, perfect. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So we're going to start club secretary. If we're not, I know I keep saying that and you guys are waiting so patiently for me to start it up. Here we go. COT slides. Secretary. We're opening it up. All right, just one more second. We're having so much fun. Mute. Okay, well, I'm off of mute now. This is so much fun. Okay, now I get to share my screen. And can everybody see where it says Secretary Club Officer Training? All right, I'm getting a thumbs up. All right, thank you so much. And let me click on it. Woo! All right, so the agenda is we're going to go over the role, what your responsibilities are, and resources. And I know I have a few people who have been secretary before. So if I miss something or if you think that certain things need to be added, you just unmute yourself and just chime right in. All right. So the session objectives are identify your role, fulfill your responsibility, and find resources that may help you. Okay. So secretary responsibilities, you have them in the club meeting, outside the club meeting, and the executive committee. So the club meeting, before club meetings, what the secretary does, and it depends on how your club runs. Some clubs, the secretary may be in charge of sending out the agenda. Some clubs may not. The secretary sometimes is in charge of taking roll to see who is at the meeting, and therefore will keep track of that. Some people use agendas because every club has an agenda, and they may just put on the back who was there on the meeting. It all just kind of depends on what you want to do. But as secretary, I suggest you archive the agendas just so that there is record that we have those. Now, in the day of Zoom, we don't have paper paper anymore. We're using electronics. So I suggest you start a file for your club and put all the pertinent information in there. And then when you find a person who wants to be secretary next year, you can just transfer all of that information to them, and we have a great archive. Whereas before, when we would put them in binders, who wants to have all those binders? So technology is great. Anybody else have any information that they would like to share about the club meeting? Okay. Clubs are generally sometimes have executive club officer meetings. Sometimes that is done during the regular Toastmaster meeting. Sometimes it is done at a different time. You're responsible for taking minutes. And it is important that if there is a vote within the club meeting, that the secretary does put that in the meeting minutes, and that can also be put on the agenda. You do not have to have a separate document for that if it's during the club meeting. If it is an executive club officer meeting at another time, you do need to also have minutes on those, but be sure and document everything. And then you will have the executive committee review the past minutes. And so therefore, you'll want them to look at that. So you just want to make sure you have minutes available should somebody ask. If there is something that the president needs to be aware of that needs to have action, you might let them know. And then you keep track of that the club has the officer list. And that's just a 2 time a year thing. Generally, actually, it's only 1 time a year. If your club is votes for officer roles once a year, then you go into the TI website and put down who the club officers are. And if you've never done that before, just let one of your club officers know who's been an officer before. They can help you find that. If not, we can help you find that as well. Just put questions if you have them in the Facebook group. That is always a great place for a resource. And we'll be more than happy to help you find where they need to go. Okay, so we are, any questions about that? Okay. And let me just switch. I don't know why this isn't going. Okay. Nope. Okay. There we go. Just one moment. Okay. Whoops. So also about the guest book. If you were meeting in person, we would have a guest book, and the secretary may be the one in charge of collecting the email addresses and information. Depending on who it is assigned to, if you have a guest in a real-time meeting, in-person meeting, you may want to send that person a thank you note. So you might decide between the secretary or the vice president of membership who may send that thank you note with follow-up information so that the guest has that information. All right. So during meetings, you would read the previous minutes, note any amendments, record current meeting minutes. So does anybody have any questions about minutes in the meetings or anything like that? You guys are all so quiet. I'm going to stop share for just a moment so I can see everybody's faces, which is one thing I'm really learning how to do is I like to see everybody. Okay. All right, Carla, thank you so much for you raised your hand. How can I answer your question?
Well, we don't very often have a formal, just general membership type meeting. If we have items to address, we just tag them on to the end of our our Toastmaster meeting. And so I just jot those minute notes down on the bottom of the agenda, paper agenda that I keep. So I'm trying to figure out if that's the best way to do it. At one point I started kind of a running log, electronically, and maybe I should do that too, but it seemed like double work. And then I quit doing the electron. I mean, I'm just keeping the paper copies, I guess, at this time, with little notes.
Right. I think that it's a great idea to just have that paper copy. However, you might want to also have an electronic copy now, just with the way the times are. Mary, I know that you've been secretary for quite a while. How do you keep track of the important information that needs to be kept with the clubs?
Honestly, some of the other club officers do that work too. I have a good vice president education who creates the agendas. I don't see doing double bookkeeping for him to store it and me to store it. We also have a vice president of membership who takes care of the guest book when they sign in. So I like to keep track of any changes in the agenda. But I also had a question of the other secretaries, in that when you do have documentation, say meeting minutes when there's an executive council meeting or other things we want to keep track of, where do you store the documents so that other people have access to them in case you're not there anymore, you're not the secretary? Do people use Google Docs? Do you have some other method for sharing information? Anybody use Google Docs? I've been asking this one because I understand that we all have a Google Doc drive with that comes with Toastmasters, but so far I'm not sure how to access it. So maybe that's a good question for the larger group.
I guess I've never had anyone really want to access the documents on their own. If they have a question and they ask me, and I will send them the document. Our minutes from executive meetings always go out to our office. I send them out to our officers, but I think our group is so quiet. They've never requested a lot of, records or information. So
yeah. I've never had a request either, but you never know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So far we've talked about maintaining an accurate roster. What that is just knowing that you have your list of members. You can access that off of your Club Central on Toastmasters International, and you will see who is a current member and who may have not paid dues, because if there were any type of voting time and you had to have a quorum, then the secretary would have to alert the executive committee if they had a quorum, and because a quorum is of paid members. And right now, sometimes it's not all members are paid at a certain time. So you just have to make sure that you have that quorum. I already talked about submitting a club officer list. There really isn't too much correspondence other than your thank you notes and so forth. I don't know if you have any other correspondence that you use as secretary, but if you do, let me know. And so you can share with your other secretaries what type of correspondence you are having to deal with. What counts for a quorum? That is a great question. A quorum is 51%. Is that correct, Mary? So if we had a club office, we had a group of 10 people, we would have to have 6. Is that correct?
I understand that it's 50% plus 1.
Right. Okay. So in that case, it would be 6 because we had our 50% is 5 if we have 10 members, and then the plus 1 would be 6. Right. Okay. So I guess that's how I came up with 51, is it's 50 plus 1.
It probably would average to be 50% plus 1. 50.
Yeah, And we talked about how to keep files. And I will do some research as far as Google Drives, because that would be a great place to archive information for a club, is if we could have a club Google Drive and put that on. So I'll do more research about that.
So will I.
And then attend club executive meetings. Okay. That's not what I wanted. My goodness. Okay. And then as secretary, you are able to vote in international conference. That's correct, Mary. Weren't you one of the ones who get to delegate? I'm going to be referring back to Mary a lot because she's done this role a lot more than I have. But during Toastmasters International Conference, one of the club members who can vote on behalf of the club is the secretary.
That's right. So I can either attend the district conference and vote, or I send my proxy in, and that's very important to do.
Right.
So that's something you need to make sure gets done.
You'll want to make sure that if you cannot attend, that you do assign it to a proxy so that the vote does count, because that's very important. Also, as secretary, you are a facilitator of Base Camp Manager and Pathways. And the reason being is they don't want just one person who has access to all of the capability of approving members and pathways. They've spread that out between the vice president of education, the president, and secretary. So I suggest, since Pathways is still new, that the three of you kind of get together and come up with a plan who will be how it's going to work. Generally, the vice president of education seems to be the one who is managing it, but they may ask you to take part in that. And it's good to know whether or not you have access, how to gain access for approval, should you have to do that, because you never know when something happens and the two other officers can't do it. So just get to know that. And then I would suggest, yes, Jeremy, you have a question. You unmute yourself. Jeremy, if you can unmute yourself. There we go.
There we go. Sorry, I'm driving and I got caught in an error code. Was unable to get to the VPE club training. I'm okay staying here, but yeah, sorry, I probably should be over there.
No problem. We will get you back over there. VPE. There you go.
Thank you, Victoria. Have a good one.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you all for being very patient with me. Plan for your successor. Right now, start talking to the members in your club. Find out if they have aspirations of certain designations that they want to go for, because it's a good stepping stone to start leadership in your club and then move up, because we're always looking for area directors, division directors, administration manager. That was always a great position. If you enjoy the secretary role, that is what is the secretary role in the district, is the administrative manager. And we are always looking for people to join district leadership, as Deborah talked about earlier. Any questions so far? Okay. And so I talked about the executive committee, about how that's just the group of club officers that meet. For those of who can either use your, I don't know what those are called, reactions, or just raise your hand. How many of you have clubs that meet on a regular basis with your executive committee? I'm not surprised. It's very interesting that at the club level, we just don't do that. And it's just one of those things that seems to not be happening. And so maybe that's a training that we should be having of how to have effective executive club officers meetings. Some clubs weave them into their club meeting agenda. So if you see that there is a need, reach out. If you feel that there isn't a need and things are going well, then, try it and see if it needs to be done, because sometimes that extra meeting with club officers gets things moving a lot faster for the club and going towards the success plan. Does anybody have any questions about the executive committee or any comments that they would like to share?
When I was in District 2, it was my first club.
Okay.
We always met every month, the executive committee. The president called the meeting, and it was a lot of fun. It was enthusiastic. We always had something going on that we needed to get together and buzz about.
Right.
Especially if there was a conference coming up when we had a fall and spring conference. We'd all compare notes. Well, where are you going to go? Let's make sure we all go to every session we can and cover all the tracks. It just seems to be cultural, perhaps from club to club, but we were very good about meeting every month. But over in my current clubs, it just doesn't happen. I'm not sure why that is. It was valuable. It made the club officers a more cohesive unit. When we had meetings, everyone knew who the club officers were because they were introduced just by raising their hand. But it did make the club officers more prominent. I'd like to see that, more of that in my new clubs.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we were meeting regularly. We would meet for dinner, like on a Sunday evening or something. And that worked out well until COVID hit. And then we were trying to meet for the hour on Zoom for an hour before our regular Toastmasters meeting. And that was kind of working too. And then the last few months, we've just, it hasn't happened. And I'm not sure why. But yeah, it does help bring us together and put us on the same page. I think every meeting, though, it seems we fall back to where we struggle, which is membership. And we end up spending the whole meeting time on how can we recruit new members. Especially now with Zoom, people can go wherever they want, whether it's here in Yakima or out of state or out of country. So how do we pull those people in? And I think we're a little burned out on talking about that every time we meet. So I don't know, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Ellensburg Club was, when I was area director, Ellensburg Club was really good about meeting every month as well. And that's when I would go down to visit as in that capacity. And they were engaging and fun meetings.
Yeah. I really enjoy the executive meetings. It gives you a chance to bond with your other club officers and see what's going on. So yeah, I highly recommend, if you're not having them, suggest that you have them at least quarterly, just to kind of touch base and see where the club is going. Do we have any other questions about the role of secretary, the duties? Does everybody know who their successor is going to be next year already?
Come on.
Well, I guess I have a question. Again, back to saving documents. For best practices, and when I worked for nonprofits, maybe this was before iCloud and so forth, we always save documents in at least two different locations. President would have a copy, secretary has a copy. So now are we looking then just to save all our documents in one place, like to iCloud or something else? Is that safe as long as we remember to back up our devices? Because I've had computer crashes several times. My home's been robbed. I've lost computers. I guess I need to become more knowledgeable about what options are there if we're going to save documents to the iCloud or whatever.
Again, Mary, I'm going to let you answer that. You're a little bit more savvy about computers and electronics and stuff like that. So if you would take that question.
You know, I worked in IT for my career, and I retired 2 years ago. And I feel like I left all of it behind because I can't figure out how to get into Google Docs. But yeah, I think the best way to do it is to have a drive that everyone can access, that they have privileges for, not necessarily to, you know, overwrite or delete or, you know, but at least they have view privileges, and the perhaps club officers have updating. But I'm just not sure how Toastmasters has that set up. But I think that would be the best way to do it, because then you don't have to go back in your email and, you know, look for stuff. It's just there in a reliable place and well set up and well maintained, well named directories, so that people can just buzz into it and they've got it.
All right. Oops.
Woof. Was that time up?
All right. I have put up resources. If you want to take a screenshot or write those down. Got my dog real quick. I'll be right back. That's a mess. I changed colors. But it can't. I'm still on there. I couldn't go anywhere, so. Try this again. I was talking to nobody because I was on mute. Was everybody able to get down those resources?
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Any other questions for your fellow secretaries as far as responsibilities? We're going to look. Yep, Carla.
For how long do we keep records? I mean, if I have notebooks and notebooks, and they've given me file boxes of all these old paper records, for how long do I need to keep those?
I think it's forever. I'm not sure. I mean, for what was I going to say? For tax purposes, we say 7 years, and then you can get rid of it. But I've never gotten a straight answer. So Mary, have you ever gotten a straight answer of how long we have to keep them?
I led this session last time, and I thought it was 7 years. And I'm pretty sure if you're patient enough and curious enough, you can dig through the Toastmaster website and find the answer to that question. But my memory is 7 years.
Okay, so it is 7 years, as the same as
taxes,
which is nice. I can remember that.
Yeah.
All right, secretaries, thank you so much. If you have any questions, let me know. Everybody is now coming back into the main room, because that's where our secretary session was in the main room. I appreciate all of you bearing with my technology challenges today and figuring this all out. Do we have any questions, concerns, comments?
Vicki, do you want to wait till everybody returns from the breakout rooms? Because I know we only have 48 back in the main room. So there's
Thank
still
you.
probably some stragglers.
There probably is. Thank you. We will wait. All right. Rob, do you know how many people we are waiting for?
About 48.
Yeah, 40 some if they all come back to the main room.
Okay, we're up to 81, 83.
We're almost there.
We're almost there.
We may have lost 5 or 6, but you know what? That's not a bad percentage.
All right. So for my leaders of the presentation rooms, I'm just going to go down really quickly and see if there's any questions or concerns that we need to address currently. Mike Anthony, you had presidents. How did that go?
The idea was great. We needed just 2 more hours, though. Just 2 more hours, I think we would have had it whipped up. There were some great questions. A couple of topics that took us a little bit more time to address, and those topics were typically, you know, between the pledge and prayer and invocation, and should we or shouldn't we do it, and what about the groups that, you know, decide not to do it. We discussed that, and because as we expand more, you know, whether it's international or tribal, you know, not everybody's may be comfortable with that. And it was a good discussion. I felt like, you know, we know each individual club has their own feel and personality, and so they were wonderful questions. Really appreciated that. We discussed the president's role in the book a little bit and tried to make it as open as possible, but we ran out of time, and that's okay. That's the story of life.
Right. I know. I wish I could leave these open longer, but we do have other things that our Toastmasters are committed to as well. But that's great ideas and thoughts. And we will also be having more breakouts for discussions like that, but just a smaller group. Vice President of Education, Lloyd, how did your group go?
Okay, I think, you know, you could spend hours and hours and hours talking about base camp and whatnot, but in the time available, okay.
So what I'm hearing is we need way more time. I got it.
Well, whether
Vice
everybody wants more time is a whole different question, but.
Oh, okay. Vice President of Membership, Ed Newman, how did your group go?
Our group went well, and I have to agree with Lloyd. More time is good, but maybe they were glad it ended when it did. So, but we brought up a lot of good points, discussed a lot of different deals. We even discussed how important Meetup is going to be and how great tool that's going to be for us to use. So we shared ideas from each club, and I thought it went very well.
All right, thank you so much. Vice President of Public Relations, Deb Sterling, how did yours go?
Our meeting was awesome. I hardly talked at all, and that's why it was awesome. We knew, you know, when I went to the club training last time for this segment, we talked about having a support group or having, you know, getting together later, and nothing materialized. So my main role today, my main purpose today was to see if we could get that done. Everyone introduced themselves and gave us their background. So we really got to know one another well. We spent about half our time just figuring that out. We've got some newbies. We've got some people that have years and years of experience. And we are now forming an official District 9 public relations support group. And we will invite others, but we're going to get started and organized ourselves because we figure it's just like every other group. You need more time, but we've got the answers. We just need to be able to come together. So I'll be organizing that, and Janet's going to help get some information for it. And we're excited.
All right, thank you. Treasurer, Victoria Luba, how did it go?
Well, I benefited greatly today from the presence of Dwayne Normando and Ed Keeney, both of whom have massive experience with the role. This is my first year being treasurer. We had a good discussion. Both Ed and Dwayne added particularly to the discussion. I couldn't get the slide deck to present. So we just talked and the discussion went well. I think we've gotten everybody sort of sorted out. The treasurer's role in these COVID times is a little bit different than it is during normal times when we're having to buy supplies. So right now, one thing, yes, it's going well. We had a good discussion.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Sergeant at Arms, Mark Johnson, happy to go.
It went well. We had a lively discussion about hybrid meetings and how to correctly implement them. We had lots of great ideas from Jim Briggs and others about how they were doing it. And I explained how most like Toastmasters was doing it and probably how that was going to evolve for every sergeant at arms, some way to enhance the Zoom platform for our meetings. Also, we had comments from Joe and his team. Joe already has a successor to him that he's training, so that was great. And they both indicated that they liked this kind of officer training way more than having to drive officer training. So they want to keep this officer training the way it is, and they really like it. That's
All
it from
right.
Sergeant Arms.
Thank you so much. Yes, one of my running platforms when I was running for program quality director is that to bring in virtual training. I didn't realize that it would happen so fast and that we would all be mandated to do it, but we have virtual training, which is nice that we don't have to drive in weather that is not very safe to do. So I appreciate it. Our secretary group was wonderful. I deferred to Mary Cyree a lot because she is my go-to gal. And I really appreciate my secretary group of being patient with me while I was running the back end of things as well. At this time, I would like to know if Karen Mobley, our club quality director, has any parting words.
I don't have anything. I've appreciated everyone's feedback today on the meetup presentation. If any of you did not receive the handouts or you were unable to download them, please send me an email and I will email them out to you. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I appreciate everyone being here.
Thank you. All right. We will be having more trainings, look at the different modes of marketing, such as Facebook, web page, club training, or club meetings. We'll get more information out. We're going to be having smaller workshops. At this point, Deborah, I'm going to let you close it out with your parting words.
All right. We'll take it home here. First off, I want to remind any area directors that are on the call, if you haven't completed your club visit reports, please do that. If you need help or guidance or something, reach out to me or to Karen. I want to give a big scream of excitement for a new club in the Tri-Cities. Women of Influence just hit their 20-member mark last night. So we have a new club starting down in the Tri-Cities, actually 2. There's also a bilingual club starting in the process of chartering. And then I want to wish you all a well, if not socially distanced, Thanksgiving holiday. I want us to get all of us get through this season of interesting pandemic, and be well, have a nice Thanksgiving, and I look forward to seeing you on the next Zoom meeting.
Thank you all. We got done early. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yep. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Yep.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Deborah.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Thanks,
Thanksgiving,
Deborah.
everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy holidays.
Don't rush it.
Hey, Deborah. Deborah,
Yes.
could you send me Jennifer's emails because she's in Casper, which is just a few miles from where I am at. But I don't have her email address.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Bye. Good to see ya.
Victoria,
Yes.
this is Mark Havens. What are plans for future or other officer training for people who weren't on this one? Or was this the one and only?
No, we will have additional club officer trainings in January once club officers have been elected.
Okay, and they will be on Zoom, obviously.
They will be on Zoom, yes.
All right, thank you.
You are welcome.
Deborah,
Yes.
question about the club, the Lance Miller, that one that spoke in October. Can we get is there a way we can get a copy of that for the Vice President of Public Relations?
Oh, the Kyle Hall on marketing.
Yeah, that's what his name, Kyle Hall? Yeah, Kyle Hall, yeah.
Has he gotten that to you yet, Vicki? I reached out to him a couple weeks ago and I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I will double check with him. But if you go on YouTube and enter his name, his speech is on there as well.
From October?
No, but it's the same speech that he's given.
Okay.
Marketing 101, marketing for clubs 101, I think it is something.
Yeah. He does have that on YouTube as well.
Okay, it's Kyle. Okay, so look up Kyle Hall on YouTube. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.